After hearing that the two truths, relative truth and ultimate truth, are both distinctions of the relative truth,
在听闻到说这二谛，也就是圣义谛和世俗谛这两种分别，其实也是世俗谛。
and also after hearing the remarks such as everything, including concepts such as enlightenment, nirvana, is relative truth. And the relative truth, the definition of the relative truth is basically something meaningless, deceptive by nature, not real.
在听到所有的一切，包括这些概念，例如证悟成佛、涅槃，他们这些概念也都是世俗谛。而世俗谛的定义就是一些没有意义、具欺骗性，它的本性就是具欺骗性，不是真实的。
Then you would immediately ask, so what are we doing here? Why are we practicing Dharma? Why are we listening to the teachings?
那你马上就会问，那我们现在在干嘛呢？我们为什么要修佛？我们为什么要听闻教？
Why we have to behave?
为什么我们要有好的行为？
See, this alone proves Buddha Dharma is so special.
单单这一点就证明了佛法是如此的特别。
Buddha Dharma is not some kind of a survival kit that is prescribed for a specific tribe of a specific nationality or a specific race.
佛法并不是一个生存的，给你一个生存箱，是专门为了某一特定的民族、某一特定的国家的人民，或者某一特定的种族，专门为他们而设计的。
This is why there's never like a marriage, Buddhist marriage ceremony found in the sutras and the shastras.
这也就是为什么在佛陀的经典和在经典与他的其他的佛典里面呢，从来没有发现过有佛教的婚礼仪式。
It's not that the Buddhists don't believe in marriage.
这并不是因为佛教徒不相信有婚姻。
It's also because Buddhists don't also believe in divorce.
同样的，也不also not don't believe.
Buddhists also don't believe in divorce.
佛教同样也不相信离婚。
Therefore, as much as you don't find marriage ceremony prescribed in the sutras, you will not find divorce ceremony.
所以相同的，你不会在佛教的经典里头找到这个婚礼的仪式，你也不会在里头找到离婚的仪式。
If you do those things, and as long as you are not going against the wisdom, everything is welcome.
如果你做这些东西，也就是那些仪式的话，只要你不会违反智慧的话，那你做什么都欢迎你做任何东西。
The moment you forget the wisdom, all these methods ends up becoming extreme.
你一旦忘记了智慧，那这所有的方法都成为了极端的行为。
English word violence has many connotations, looks like.
violence 或者这个英文字 violence 或者暴力有很多层的含义。
One of the connotations is turbulent.
其中一个含义就是乱了。
This is what you have to realize. If you have no wisdom, love and compassion is also violence.
你必须了解这一点。如果你没有智慧的话，慈悲同样也是暴力。
Mindfulness is also violence.
正念也是暴力。
I'm just wanting to say this because there has been some questions of why I'm talking about constipation.
我要说这些是因为有些人问我，就是为什么你要说便秘的事情？
If you don't have a wisdom,
如果你没有智慧，
and then you talk about morality, ethic, love, compassion, at best you will become apologist.
如果你没有智慧，那么你说到道德、慈悲等等，最好的情况就是你成为一个apologist， 不太会翻，就是
Love and compassion without the wisdom is actually the most sophisticated kind of arrogance. Arrogance.
没有智慧的慈悲，其实是一种最精细的、最高、最精细、最精密的骄傲。
Apologist is, oh, don't worry about it. I was just trying to pick on some people here, so don't worry about it. Basically, BBC.
刚才仁波切不是说你没有智慧，但是你讲道德慈悲，那你就成为好像 BBC。
Almost all the Western intellectuals.
几乎所有的西方的有识之士，他们就是知识分子。西方的知识分子几乎都是这样。
Wisdom is so important.
智慧是那么重要。
Okay, going back to the question, why are we doing all this then?
那回到那个问题，我们为什么要做这一切事情呢？
We need carrot.
我们需要萝卜。
And for that matter, we need a really big one.
因为这个原因，我们需要一个很大的萝卜。
Because we are just so pathetically extreme donkey.
因为我们是一个非常非常悲惨的、可怜的、极端的驴子。
So, enlightenment, liberation, all this carrot is absolutely important. It's for this reason, Shantideva said, that there is one ignorance that a practitioner must keep for the time being, and that is to think that there is an enlightenment.
证悟解脱，这所有一切的证悟与解脱这一些大萝卜，他们是绝对重要的。也就是为什么吉田菩萨说，一个修行人目前来讲，必须继续保持有的一个无明，就是认为有证悟成佛。
If you lost wisdom, all your spiritual path will just radicalize you.
如果你失去了智慧，那你所有的修行法道都只不过会让你更加极端。
You will become judgmental.
你会成为就是会去批判人。
So much so that you will actually come to the point where you will spend millions of dollars discussing whether the cigar actually went inside or not.
你这样的会让你导致你会导致到一个地步，就是你会花上几百万块钱来讨论这个香烟是否进入了没有。
To make it very simple, the reason why we need this path is because we don't want to suffer.
简单来说，我们为什么需要这样的修道呢？是因为我们不想要受苦。
And the suffering we have because we have ignorance.
我们为什么会受苦呢？那是因为我们有无明。
And why do we have ignorance? Because we have no wisdom.
为什么无明呢？因为我们没有智慧。
Briefly, we will now talk a little bit about ultimate truth.
那很简略的，我们现在要谈一点关于圣义谛。
Before we talk about ultimate truth, let me give you this example.
在我们谈到圣义谛之前，现在人们去给我们一个例子。
If I'm performing a magic here,
如果仁波切现在在这里表演魔术，
and you don't know that I'm actually performing the magic,
而你不知道仁波切在表演魔术，
what you perceive
你所看到的
is what we call the worldly deluded being's experience.
是我们称之为世间的迷惑众生他们的经验，他们的体验。
You are looking at something that is not true, yet you think it's true.
你看着是一个不真实的东西，然而你却觉得它是真实的。
Looking at something impermanent, but you think it's permanent.
你看着一个无常的东西，你认为是永恒的。
Looking at somebody who is not that exciting, but thinking he's exciting.
看着一个你其实不是很有趣的人，可是你觉得是很刺激、很有趣的。
Okay, that's one example.
这是一个例子。
Now, myself, I'm the magician. I know what's happening.
我是魔术师，我知道发生什么事。
My experience while I'm showing the magic and looking at the magic that I have performed, this experience is what we call yogi's experience.
而我自己的经验，当我在表演魔术而看着我自己的这个魔术的时候，我的经验，我的体验，这个我们称之为瑜伽士的体验。
Because I know it's not real, but yet I am caught by the act of it.
因为我知道不是真实的，可是我仍旧被我仍旧困在这个行动当中，他的行为当中。
Someone who is not my audience here.
一个不是在我这边欣赏我表演的人，是我观众的人。
His or her experience is what we call fully enlightened being's experience, because he is not contaminated by any kind of illusion. Therefore, as a subject and object, both.
As a subject and object?
There's no magician, there's no magic, therefore he's not also an audience, he's not watching a magic show.
那他的体验呢，就是所谓的全然证悟者的体验，因为他并不受到这个迷惑的染污，这里并没有主体和客体或者能所二者，他没有魔术师也没有观众。
Ordinary beings like you and me, we have developed a dependency to this perception. The magic.
一般的众生就好像你和我们已经升起了一种依赖性， 我们依赖这样的一种感官感知。
And do you know what dependency means? Dependency means suffering, actually, because you have no control. You are dependent on this.
你知道依赖性是什么意思吗？依赖性就是痛苦，因为你没有控制能力，你没有能力控制，你完全依赖其他的东西。
Basically, we are so dependent to this game.
基本上，我们是这么的依赖这一个游戏。
There's not even an intention of wind up this game.
我们连结束这场游戏的意图都没有。
We don't see anything beyond this game.
我们看不到任何超越这个游戏的东西。
This is the only game that we are so stuck with.
这是我们唯一困住的，这是我们困于其中的唯一一场游戏。
And this endlessness, the birth, the death, again and again, and this web, this net that is self-produced, that we have produced, always ends up binding us.
而这个没有终点的这个没有终点、没有止境的不断又不断的生与死，这样的一个网，这样的一个我们自己制造出来的网，最后总是会将我们自己给束缚起来。
Ultimately, all of this from the lack of what is it called? Because of lack of words, I have no choice but have to use the word do not exist.
究竟来说，这所有的一切，因为我们缺乏文字来描述，所以我没有办法，没有选择，必须使用这样的字语来说，它们并不存在。
And now this is where the Buddhist philosophy students has to really be careful.
这里是佛教的哲学，学习佛教哲理的弟子们要注意的一点。
The non-existence in the ultimate truth includes the non-existence itself.
在圣义谛里说的不存在，这个不存在也包含不存在本身。
This is something you should not understanding this. People always fall into the nihilist trap.
不理解这一点的人，他们总是落入这个虚无主义的陷阱。
Okay, just for your reference, I'd like to express this. What makes you? How do you become nihilist?
为了让你作为参考，我在这里表达一下，你是怎么会成为一个虚无主义者呢？
When you underestimate relative truth.
当你低估世俗谛的时候。
When you say things like mindfulness is good, but reincarnation does not exist, that's when you become nihilist.
当你说正念是好的，但是轮回并不存在，这时候你就成为虚无主义者。
How do you become eternalist? When you overestimate ultimate truth.
那你是怎么成为一个永久主义者呢？就是当你高估了圣义谛。
This is really probably beside the point, but I don't have like a scientist. I don't see much problem with them to myself. I mean, with me, I don't have much problem.
对于这些科学家，我本身对他们我不觉得他们有什么问题。
As long as that things, the concept such as Big Bang exists as a whim.
只要他们说这个Big Bang 就是大爆炸是吧？只要他们认为大爆炸是一个任意随意发生的一件事情。
And I have a feeling that they sort of assert that because the scientists are always, they never say this is the final decision.
仁波切有一个感觉，就是他们差不多几乎也是这样子接受这一点的，因为他们从来没有说这是最终的一个决议。
But if the Big Bang is not, if Big Bang is a final decision or a conclusion of an analysis, yes, the scientists are basically opponent of this view.
Opponents
of this system.
Buddhist system.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. 但是如果他们认为大爆炸是在这个分析后的最终结论、最终决议、最终的结论的话，那这样的科学家他们是和我们的这个佛教的系统是持反对的意见的。
Once again, in the ultimate level, when we talk about non-existence, we are talking about, there's one good question you can ask, which is, why do we use negative word, non-existence?
那当我们在谈到这个究竟的次第的时候，我们说不存在。那在这里可以提出的一个很好的问题是，为什么我们要使用这种否定的词语呢？为什么说不存在呢？
Well, there's so many answers for this.
这个有很多答复。
One very easy sort of seemingly copying out kind of answer is because I'm teaching you Madhyamika at the moment.
那其中一个很简单，看起来好像是在抄袭的答案，是因为现在仁波切在教我们的是中观。
You know, if I'm teaching something like a Mahasandhi,
如果仁波切教的是大圆满，
I may not use the negative word too much.
仁波切不一定会使用那么多否定的词语。
I will say, yes, everything is a display.
我会说是的，所有的一切都是一种显现。
But it actually is talking about the same thing.
但其实他们说的是一样的东西。
More sort of, if you are more feeling oriented, probably you might like to hear that.
如果你是比较倾向于比较多情绪的感觉的那样的人，那可能你喜欢听这样的东西。
But at the same time, if you are more like a wishy-washy type, you might not want to hear, might not need that.
但是如果你是一个拖泥带水的人，那你可能不需要听到这样的东西。
So you know, so I'm just giving you an idea why we use the negative word.
所以我们在这里只是给你一点了解，为什么我们要用否定的字语。
Okay, more academic answer to this is because majority of the problem that we have is because of clinging to existence. That's why we prefer to use the non-existence word.
比较具学术性的一个答案是，因为大部分的我们在这里大部分的人所碰到的问题是，我们对于存在是执着的，所以我们比较喜欢用不存在这个字语。
So, together with this, I'm now going to also cover the very important subject, which is uniting the two truth.
那同时呢，我在这里也要跟大家提一个比较重要的课题，就是二谛的结合。
Again, when I use the word uniting the two truths, it can be very misleading because when you unite, it immediately asserts that there is two things to unite. But we have no other way to put it.
在这里，当我们用这个词语说结合二谛的时候，它也是具误导性的，因为你一旦用这个字结合，就代表说有两样东西让你来结合。
So basically, relative truth and ultimate truth is not like a right and left horn that cannot be united.
基本上，世俗谛和圣义谛并不像左脚和右脚，就是牛角的角，不能够被结合起来。
Again, let me put it this way. Usually, people think in the relative, people even use the language, in the relative exist. In the ultimate does not exist. Just be careful when you use this word.
另外一个说法就是，一般人们总是这么认为或这么说，在世俗谛里头有存在，在在圣义谛里头不存在。当我们说这样的词语的时候，我们要非常的小心。
Because if you think this way, you are not really understanding the Madhyamika.
因为如果我们这样想的话，你并不是真的理解中观。
This is actually quite a big subject.
这其实是一个相当大的课题。
It's because of this, the distinctions of what is virtue and non-virtue, for instance, is also very, 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 very relative.
也因为这一点，所以比方说我们要怎么分别善与不善，这个也是非常非常非常相对的。
Otherwise, but in the Bodhisattva yana, if a Bodhisattva, if he or she is very sure that by lying to somebody, and he doesn't lie because he's so stuck with this not lying puritanical value, then this bodhisattva, it is said that the bodhisattva is breaking a big vow.
要不然，在这个菩萨乘里头，如果有一位菩萨，他非常确定，他如果对某人撒谎，对他有帮助，可是他却因为这个清教士的这种价值观，认为不可以撒谎，而不去骗那个人的话，那是经典中是说，这位菩萨他已经破坏了一个很大的戒律。
Okay, lastly.
最后一点。
Because few hundred feet from here is where Buddha defeated the demon.
因为在几百尺以外呢，是佛陀降服魔鬼的地方。
If you ask me what is that demon?
如果你问我那个魔鬼或妖怪是什么呢？
The demon is actually, the ultimate demon is not managing to unite the relative and ultimate truth. That is the ultimate demon. I will explain this.
这个魔，究竟的魔，就是无法将二谛结合起来，这就是究竟的魔。
This is what the sutra says.
佛经中是这么说的。
상제지 율 삼지 미쳐버튼 비돌레 토바 시저와니 요와니도 응아버 토바 시버튼니 롬셈니도 요와당 롬셈 강인 버튼니 뒤질레소. In the I don't know how to translate this one, but it's a sutra which I'm sure we will translate in one of these. Buddha said, there's a two characteristic of what is demon.
佛陀说，什么是魔？它有2个特性。
Thopa means achieve, attain, got it. I got it. Achieve. That is one element.
Thopa 就是得到、成就、获得、成就、获得、得到的那个意思，这是其中一个元素。
And why is it a problem? Because Thopa, achievement means Yoa is like, it's such a strong word. Yoa means, okay, I will tell you all the word name, I guess I'll try to Yoa means basically losing the territory.
这个为什么 Thopa 这个成就是一个问题呢？仁波切在这里又提到另外一个字 Yoa， 他说 Yoa 是很强的一个字。Yoa 基本上意思就是你失去你的地盘。
Okay, so when there's a concept achieve, got it, anything to do with the achieve and got has to do with losing territory.
在这里，这个成就或获得，任何一样东西跟获得和成就有关的话，它同时也就意味着你失去你的地盘。
When you lose territory, okay, when you lose territory, what does it mean? It means you get contaminated.
当你失去地盘的时候，这是什么意思呢？意思就是你受到污染。
Yoa also means bent.
又也有折的意思。
Fall apart, fall.
坠落。
Okay? So that's one element of the demon.
这是魔的其中一方面。
Ngambar Tokpa means realize. Okay, so the second one is Ngambar Tokpa, realize.
那第二点就是 Ngambar Tokpa 就是了悟。
Is fundamentally lompa. Lom is arrogance.
它基本上，它其实主要还是这个傲慢。
Where there is achieving and realizing, there is, losing the territory and arrogance. Losing the territory and the arrogance, these two are the main ingredient of demon. This is what makes a demon.
每当有成就和了悟或证悟的时候呢，就会有失去地盘和傲慢。而失去地盘和傲慢呢，这两者就是魔的2个主要的素材。就这两者是构成魔的材料。
So of course, we always go around and say, this is where Buddha got the realization. So, see, when we say that this is where Buddha achieved enlightenment. This is, that's actually the demon. But we have no other way to express this. This is the only way. So please don't repeat this elsewhere. You will get, this is, you can get beaten out by mob here if you talk about these things here.
那我们总是到处去说这个地方是佛陀获得证悟、佛陀证悟成佛的地方。那实际上我们说获得证悟或证悟成佛，获得这些呢，其实就是那个魔。可是我们也没有其他的方法去表达，所以仁波切说我们千万不要到处去重复这一句话，要不然你在这个地方讲这种话，可能会被群众殴打。
And then, as Nagarjuna, and both Nagarjuna and Maitreya said, "Ndila salja chiyame jabar chawaya jungse me yanda nila yanda sa yanda ni thona number 12." For this reason, all road, all path leads to salja chiyame. There's nothing to abandon, and there's nothing to adopt.
因此呢，龙树菩萨和弥勒菩萨他们两个人都说过，所有的法道呢，都会将我们引往一个引往到一个地方，就是说没有任何东西可以摒弃，也没有任何东西要取得。
This is something that we need to strive for.
这是我们要努力的东西。
And for that, by all means, we will encourage you to light lamps, burn incense, circumambulate right way, left way. Doesn't matter.
也是因为这样呢，你要这么做呢，你也可以用各种方法，我们也鼓励你去供灯、供香，你可以往右边、往左边去绕塔，都没有关系。
Even though we know enlightenment is not longable.
尽管我们知道证悟是无法让我们想要得到的。
Because we know that what you are longing is only getting you into trouble.
因为我们知道你想要的东西只会让你出问题。
So we will now have to tell you how to long unlongable.
所以我们现在必须告诉你，你要怎么去向往一个无法向往的东西。
This is the gift of this prince who I shouldn't use the word achieve. Okay, why not? Achieved and realized. And this was his gift.
这就是这位王子给予我们的礼物，而这位王子就是这位获得正德。那仁波切就说：“我也不能说获得，但倒不如就说吧，就获得和证悟的这位王子所给我们的礼物。”
And this happened just few hundred feet away from here.
这一切只不过是在几百尺以外所发生的一件事情。
Far, 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 far more important than Taj Mahal.
Then what?
Taj Mahal.
比泰姬陵重要的多少倍，远之而不及。
Taj Mahal is basically a memorial for the, like complete invalid relative truth.
泰姬陵只不过是一个纪念一个完完全全不成立的世俗地。
So many people suffered making that.
建造泰姬陵让这么多人受苦。
And so many, even today, so many doomed people are going there, hoping that their relationship is going to work forever.
直至今日，还有那么多完蛋的人们去到那里，希望他们的感情生活会更永远好起来。
Far, far more important than Great Wall of China.
比这个中国的长城还更为重要。
There is no more important place than a place where everything what we have been discussing for the past 3 days is actualized.
没有一个地方比 这样的一个地方还重要，就是我们这个地方是我们过去3天讨论的东西所成就的一个地方。
And this is not something like undoable.
而这不是一个做不到的事情，
It is very much doable.
这完完全全非常做得到。
It is just so simple and so easy and so painless to do.
它是那么容易、那么简单、那么无痛无痒就能做到的事情。
It's just because we just love pain and we love problems.
那只是因为我们就是那么的喜欢痛苦，喜欢问题。
We just have that. We are like, if there is a prize to win for best finder of trouble, we will win it every day. We just know where it is. We can sniff, we are so good at it.
我们就是这个样子。如果有设立这样的一个奖，就是最能够找到问题或找到麻烦的这个奖的话，那我们每天都会赢这个奖杯，因为我们就是知道它在哪里，我们嗅吸得出它在哪里，我们找麻烦非常厉害。
If you want to do this, it is doable, it's achievable.
如果你要成就，你要做这件事的话，它是做得到的，可以挣得的。
And even if you do it for 1 or 2 minutes a day, or forget a day, even if you do a minute or 2 a life.
就算你只是每一天1到2分钟去做这件事，那每天做那也就别提了。就算你一生当中只做那1、2分钟，
that non-dual virus will forever sort of embed with you.
embed.
Yeah.
Yeah. 这个无二的病毒永远的跟你就是同床而眠。
And you know how sometimes some of us, when we hear Dolly Parton, how can you not know Dolly Parton? Okay. Anyway, American country singer. Some of us, when we hear her voice, just, goosebumps, tears, all that. Just happens like this.
有时候是这样子，好像当你听这个 Dolly Parton， 就是美国的一个歌手，你一旦听到她的声音，你都起鸡皮疙瘩，可能都会流泪。有时候是这样的一个情况。
Because there is a karmic link with her.
因为你跟她有个业缘。
Because there are hundreds of others who just laugh at this.
因为有其他上百人，他们会嘲笑这一点。
So while we are sober enough, we should try to plant the seed, so that after so many lifetimes, when we hear this kind of words one more again, we will at least think it makes sense.
也就是为什么当我们现在还清醒的时候，我们要去种下一些种子。那在过了很多事以后，当我们一听到这样的一个字眼的时候，我们会觉得它有道理。
This is why Chandrakirti said, when Chandrakirti was asked, to whom should we teach this emptiness?
这也就是为什么月称菩萨说，就是当有人问月称菩萨，我们应该对谁教授空性呢？
He never said to those Oxford graduates.
他没有说给那些牛津大学的毕业生。
He said, this emptiness should be taught to people, even by mentioning the words of emptiness, whose goosebumps raise and who has tears in their eyes, and they may not understand a thing or two, but they get like mesmerized by this. To this kind of people, you should utter the words of emptiness. This is what he said.
他说到，就是空性，我们应该教空性给什么人？就是那些人，他们单单听到你提到空性这个字，他们就已经起鸡皮疙瘩，他们已经开始流泪。他们可能并不明白是什么意思，但是这样的人，你应该向他跟他说空性，跟他解释空性。
I hope and pray that our discussions of emptiness or the true truth during these 3 days
我希望并祈愿，我们这3天来关于空性和二谛的讨论
at the least create some sort of a condition that many lifetimes later, when you hear words of emptiness, you will become emotional wreck.
祈愿在你很多生以后，至少在你很多事以后，你一旦听到空性这个字，你的情绪就会崩溃。
While you are roaming in the samsara, you will be wrecked anyway.
你在轮回当中游走的时候，总是会好像就是碰到问题，翻船。
To be frustrated by emptiness is much more worthwhile to be frustrated by things. I should not say.
为空性而感到烦躁，这个比为东西感到烦躁来得更值得。
I shall let you ask questions for like another 15 minutes.
可以提问，就是15分钟，让我们提问。
What?
Hello, someone was asking about why do you have to deconstruct Guru devotion?
Deconstruct Guru devotion? Because it's a... Why do we have to... Oh, because it's not truly existent.
有人问为什么我们要拆解这个对上师的虔信心？因为仁波切说这个虔信心并不是真实存在的。
Rinpoche.
Anyway, Guru devotion is something to do with the Tantra. Mainly, I mean, even the Mahayana, of course, Guru is important.
至于对这个上师的虔信心，主要是密续的修法，当然大乘有一点。
There is a very beautiful story. I should maybe briefly tell you.
有一个很漂亮的故事，很优美的故事，仁波切可能简短跟我们讲一下。
There's a father and a son.
有一对父子。
And father told the son, "You go and learn from this master. There was a great master nearby."
父亲对儿子说：“你去跟这位老师学习，因为附近有一个非常伟大的老师。”
Father said, "This is very, very, very good master."
父亲说：“这是非常非常好的老师。”
You know, you will never get such chance.
你不会再找到这样的机会。
So the son went.
儿子就去了。
The son was very smart and very diligent.
儿子很聪明，而且很勤奋。
Years he learned everything.
在几年内呢，他所有东西都学完了。
Become equal to the master.
他跟老师一样好。
And came back.
然后回家。
But the father was so depressed.
可是他的父亲非常的抑郁。
The son said, well, you told me to go and learn, and I did everything, and Master himself said that, I have learned equal to him. So why are you depressed?
儿子说：“你让我去跟他学，那我也跟他学了。那老师本身都说我现在学的跟他懂得一样多，那你为什么现在难过呢？”
Father said, well, yeah, because you have learned everything that is teachable.
父亲说：“是的，因为你学了所有可教的东西。
And I sent you there to learn something that cannot be taught.
而我派你去，是让你去学习不可教的东西。”
And then son went back.
儿子又再回去。
And then Master was puzzled, why is he back?
老师觉得奇怪，你干嘛回来呢？
And when the son gave all the reason,
当儿子把所有的理由告诉了给老师，
Master was very happy.
老师很开心。
And he said, well, since it's, I cannot teach, it's not teachable.
老师说：“既然我无法教，因为这个是教不得的。”
He said, only thing I can do is I can give you something like several hundred cows.
那我唯一能够给你的就是600-700头牛。
Take this cow and go to the forest and don't return until these several hundred cows become 1,000 cows.
你带着这些牛群去到森林里面，那你不要回来，一直到这700头牛变成1000头牛的时候再回来。
So many years it took, of course.
当然也花了很多年。
And while there, trees don't talk to him, cows don't talk to him, so he was totally, silent.
那他在那里的时候，树木不会跟他讲话，牛也不会跟他讲话，所以他是保持完全的安静的。
And so many years later, when at last cows become 1,000, he returned.
那么多年以后，终于有1000只牛了，那他又回来了。
Anyway, Guru, especially in the Vajrayana, so important because Guru is the only one who can teach you that cannot be taught.
在金刚乘里头，上师是非常重要的，因为上师是唯一能够教你那些教不得的东西。
See this fable? This fable, this story. It's so rich because of non-duality.
你看这样的一个故事是那么的丰富，那完全都是因为无二。
Because if you believe in ultimate right and not right and good and bad, everything is teachable, then you have a big problem. That's why there's Oxford.
如果你相信有究竟绝对的对错好不好，那所有一切都是可教的，那你就有很大的问题了，也就有了这个牛津大学的问题。
Rinpoche, thank you for your precious teachings. In the book, The Great Image, the story of Aryachana, the translator, you said it in introduction, yogis practicing the path have experiences that Buddhas and sentient beings do not have. Does this refer to the example you gave at the beginning of the magicians?
I think so.
Thank
I hope
you.
so.
Thank you.
在一本书的序里头，仁波切提到那些修行在法道上修行的瑜伽士，他们的体验和佛与众生的体验是完全不同的。他问仁波切，这是不是跟之前所说的有关？仁波切的答复是：我希望是，应该是。
There's one question there. There, okay.
Jay, when you talked about the demons, I believe you said that the two aspects of the demons were arrogance and loss of territory. Can you say more about the loss of territory, what territory it is, and is it the loss or the fear of the loss?
刚才你说到魔有两方面，就是傲慢以及失去你的其实失去你的领土吧。那你可以说一点关于解释这个失去是什么，还是你害怕失去你的地盘、你的领土呢？
Because when you say got, achieve, then when you see, my hand right now is empty. Now I have this. So the original look and the position and the whatever is changed. You understand? So that's what I mean. The loss of territory or move, bend, lost its character, changed, bent.
So, but the characteristic of this is a common characteristic for everything, it seems. So for the demon, what puts the extra energy around this?
Okay. When in the teachings we always talk about, you should not have a hope, right? Hope. This is all related, like result is beyond aspiration. Aspiration is the hope to get something. Why we should not hope that? Because, okay, Mahasandhi people will say, it's already there. Madhyamikan people will say, there's nothing there. It does not, okay, but that non-existence should not be taken as nihilist. However you want. So, but if you say you got it, then you have lost your original shape. Because you acquired something new. So basically, you have bent. You have given in.
May I just ask a little further, how does this process make the demon? What's the demonic?
Because then there's no originality.
So is the territory you've lost the original nature?
Yes, that's what he's talking here.
那，仁波切说到，当你一旦说得到、获得、成就正德的时候，就好像仁波切的刚才表示，他的手目前是空的，然后得到了这样一个东西，所以它就有改变，它的样子，它的位置就有改变。你也可以说它移动了，它折了，它失去了它原来的样子，它改变了。那我们在佛法当中经常说不要有任何的希望，这一切都是和这点有关系的。比方我们也说这个它的结果，果呢是超越愿力的。而这里的愿意思就是你希望能够得到什么东西。那为什么我们不应该有任何的希望呢？在大圆满里面，他解释说，因为它本来就在那里了。那在中观来说，他是说，因为那里什么都没有，而这里的不存在，它的意思并不是虚无主义。那如果你现在说你有了，那你就失去你原来的那个样子了，那我们也说，因为你获得了一个其他的东西，那你也你也弯曲了，你也放弃了原来的样子。那这位师兄又在问，说，这个为什么这个过程是魔呢？那仁波切说，因为你并没有一个原始性或原来的样子，所以后来又澄清说，当我们说你失去你的地盘或你的领土呢，这个地盘或领土就是你原来的样子。
Just one more question, one last question, please.
Which can I ask?
Oh, okay, two questions here and there.
So, Rinpoche, firstly, thank you so much, not only here in Bhutan and in everywhere else. My question is, all this sort of academic, intellectual kind of studies and understanding, is it very imperative to go through this process, or do there also exist other methods whereby you can click on to this experience of ultimate reality through just other methods? Thank you.
这样的我们这一系列的非常就是智力上的这些讨论和理解，是不是必须的一个过程？有没有其他的方法可以让我们体验究竟的实相？
No, not everybody has to study this. This is not the only way.
不需要，并不是每个人都需要去研习这方面的东西，还有很多其他的方法。
This is one way, and also this is quite an important way to safeguard.
这是一个方法，而这也是一个相当重要的方法来保护我们。
Especially when there are people who underestimate relative truth.
特别是因为有一些人，他们低估了世俗谛，
Such as shying away from reincarnation and karma.
比方说他们就是不愿意去面对这个轮回和业力、因果业力。
Or saying that you'll become part of the universe.
或者他们认为，或者他们说你会成为宇宙的一个微尘。
It is in this kind of situation you need this information.
在这样的情况下，你需要这样的资讯。
For your own practice, depending on your capability.
至于你自己的修行，这依赖于你的能力。
And capacity.
你的根器。
And depending on also schedule.
还有看你的时间。
If you don't have much time.
如果你没多少时间。
If you have a lot of capacity.
如果你有很根器。
All you need is the shoes.
你唯一需要的是鞋子。
Just give the shoe to whoever that person who you consider the guru, and then he will just hit on you, and that's it, finished.
你只需要把鞋子递给你认为是上师的人，他用鞋子打你，那就行了。
This does not contradict with all the things that what we have said.
同样的，这一点也不违背我们之前所说的所有东西。
The 3 days of conversation that we have supports Telopas hitting Naropa's head, and he got it. It supports so well. If not for this, something is definitely going wrong.
这我们3天所讨论的东西，完完全全的支持和我们现在所谈的这件事情，就是对不起，我们3天来所谈的东西和这个帝洛巴打那洛巴，然后那洛巴明白了，这是完全相辅相成的。如果要不然的话，我们就会出问题。
Okay, last question, please.
Yeah, you actually answered my question already, but can I ask a question about yesterday, please? Right?
Yes.
Except for the purpose of showing that the relative truth is always deceptive, what is the value in distinguishing the invalid and valid relative truths?
除了要展示说这个世俗谛总是具欺骗性的，那我们为什么还要分别说有这个成立和不成立的世俗谛呢？
This is actually a really important question.
这其实是个非常重要的问题。
And you should really ask this again and again.
你应该不断的重复的问这个问题。
I want to answer this, and I want to answer in a very difficult way, so that at least some of you will think it has to be a big deal.
我要回答，而且我要用一个非常难的方法来回答，为的是要让你们一些人会认为这是很大的一件事。
Okay? In Buddhism, in the Buddhist tradition, in India, there used to be 4 different traditions.
在这个佛教的传统中，在印度以前有4个不同的传统。
And you know, Mahayana always claims they're big and great and all that. Who knows?
而大乘总是说他们自己非常的伟大。
But anyway, in the Mahayana, there's a 2 tradition called Chittamata and Madhyamika.
在大乘里头有2个学说，一个就是唯识宗，一个就是中观论。
Chittamata school is not small. They are so sophisticated, so sophisticated.
唯识并不会是很小的一回事的，唯识宗的人并不少，他唯识其实是非常的精细的。
In their theory, this is according to the Madhyamikan though, so I have to be fair here.
在这个唯识的理论里头，而我们其实说的这些是根据中观的人所说的话来说的。
I myself, I'm a big fan of Chittamata.
我本身是中观对不起，我本身是唯识的粉丝。
Anyway, Chittamatans assert that there is the base consciousness called alaya.
唯识呢，他们说有一个根本的基础的这个识呢，叫做阿赖耶识。
Okay, nothing exists as imputed.
没有一样东西是as imputed.
As imputed by our mind.
Those that are imputed by our mind don't exist. You're saying those that are imputed.
Nothing exists as how we have. Yeah.
Okay. 没有一样东西是如我们所安立的这种情况下而存在的。
Of course, Creator God not exist.
当然，这创造主并不存在。
Smallest atom.
最细微的这个微尘也不存在。
Big Bang.
大爆炸不存在。
You know, all this they say is invalid relative truth.
他们说这所有的一切都是不成立的世俗谛。
Imputed, created by theoreticians.
是假名安立的，是由其他人
theoreticians.
是由一些理论家所创造出来的。
But alaya has to be there.
但是阿赖耶识必须在那里。
Otherwise, who creates bad karma and who reaps the, good karmas, whatever, blah blah blah, all that.
要不然是谁造作了恶业？那是谁去受用善业的结果呢？
So they say alaya exists.
所以他们说阿赖耶识存在。
Now you bring Chandrakirti or Chandrakirti and Nagarjuna also.
现在我们来说月称菩萨和龙树菩萨。
They say that is invalid relative truth.
他们说那是不成立的世俗谛。
Useless as reflection of the moon.
完全没用，就好像水中月一样。
So then you ask Nagarjuna, okay, don't you create karma? Where is it going?
那你就问龙树菩萨，你不造业吗？这业去了哪里？
They say, oh, there is alaya.
然后他们说有啊，有阿赖耶识。
But that is just whim, caprice, all that. Just impute it. Don't analyze too much because otherwise it will fall apart.
他们说，但是它是任意随意的。只不过是假名安立的，你不要再去分析太多，因为一分析的话，所有一切都会瓦解。
But as wimpy as it may be, it is still very powerful.
但虽然它是那么的随意的随意的，但它却是非常的强而有力。
It's called power of imputation.
这个叫做 安利或者假名安利的力量。
Wow, these are the sort of discussions that happened again about how many kilometers from here, Nalanda? About 60, 70 kilometers away from here. These are the sort of discussions happened.
这就是在60、70公里以外所发生的一些对话。
Like 4th century, 5th centuries.
第4、第5世纪的时候，
If you have time, you should go and visit there.
你有时间的应该去看一下那烂陀大学。
And even as a scientist, you know, if you believe in science and DNA, there may be, you know, DNA floating, you know, there of these great guys, and you should sniff in these.
如果你是科学家，如果你相信科学，相信 DNA， 那里有很多这些伟大的人物的 DNA 所以你可能应该去那边嗅吸一下。
It's really here the Magadha and the Nalanda are considered one of the greatest learning place during those days.
在这里，摩揭陀，还有在那里那烂陀，这在当时以前呢是当时的最伟大的学习的中心。
I forgot the name of the monk, but one of the Chinese monk, not Xuanzang, but another Chinese monk who actually came to the Magadha and Nalanda and also Pataliputra, the Patna, present-day Patna, and in the Magadha he said he cried 7 days and nights.
曾经有一位来自中国的僧人，不是玄奘，但仁波切忘了名字。他来到摩揭陀就是这里，然后那烂陀也去到现在的班纳。据说他到摩揭陀国的时候，他哭了7天7夜。
And another Chinese monk, he was just so excited because this environment of this intellectual sort of so sophisticated discussions on wisdom and all this kind of thing just excited him so much. He just completely fell in love with this place and he never went back to China.
还有另外一位中国的僧人，他来到这里，他那么的兴奋，因为这里的环境都是知识分子非常非常高的这个智力上的各种各样的关于智慧的讨论，所以他完完全全的爱上这个地方，再也不回去中国了。
I'm sure 2,500 years later,
我相信2500年后。
Many Mexicans and Brazilians will talk about how some Mexicans and Brazilians have come here and discussed these things.
会有很多的墨西哥人、巴西人会说，过去有哪些墨西哥和巴西人来这里讨论这类的话题。
I'm sure it will happen.
我肯定这会发生。
Okay, that's it.
就这样了。